guys, so today I figured I would do a video on my Harley Davidson just because it's raining outside and I'm not really doing much to the charger today. I'm just wiring up the ignition module and the ballast resistor to go to the distributor, as y'all can see, and just putting in wire looms and everything, just doing small stuff, kind of boring stuff. So I figured I'd make a video on the Harley. And it's always in the background of videos, but the only two videos I think I've made on it was building the custom exhaust. I never really went over the things I've done to the bike, I don't think. So today that's what we're going to do. We're going to go from, mirror to tires pretty much. I'm going to tell y'all everything I bought for it, everything I had to do to it, and then I'm going to try to link everything, all the parts down in the description below. So that way, if you want to duplicate some of these parts, you got the direct link to it. So to start it off, it is a 2017 Harley Davidson Dyna Lowrider S, and emphasis on the Dyna because this bike was a 2-year production run. Halfway 2016 this bike came out, and then 2017 it was a full year production. And then of course everybody that's in a Harley Davidson knows that the Dyna model ended in 2017. It was the last year for the Dyna, and pretty much a Dyna is just a bigger frame bike with external shocks or external springs, whatever you want to call it. And so the way this differs from a Softail would be the Dyna has a lower swing arm and then a shock up top, and a Softail is like a triangulated swing arm. So like all this would be metal, and then there's a single shock underneath. And of course they did that with the new Softail models that they started in 2018 also. And also in 2017 the twin cam engine died out too. So this is a twin cam 110. They also made a twin cam 103, a twin cam 96, and a twin cam 88. And then in 2017 on their touring model bikes, so like the Road Glide, Street Glide, I believe they switched to the Milwaukee 8 engine. So it's like 2 spark plugs per cylinder, all that good stuff. Is supposedly way better. Who knows? But anyways, so my Lowrider S, these little Batwing mirrors was already on here when I bought the bike, so I haven't changed those, although I would prefer stock mirrors over these anyways. This seat was already on here when I bought the bike. It is a Lepera seat, and I really like it just because I've rode some other 2-up seats, and this one seems to be a little bit more comfortable. It's not as like an aggressive of a back, which I wouldn't mind having a little bit higher back and a little bit more aggressive look, but the comfort of Lepera I think is just pretty much unmatched. But anyways, moving on. So these are Arlen S grips I just bought off of Amazon. They're like a $50 or $60 grips. The bars are Spooky Fast Customs 12-inch T-bars, and they came powder coated in this color. You can get them in this color or black. Of course I chose this color just because that gold matches the gold of the wheels really well, so I thought it would kind of accent the bike a little bit more, and I thought that would look cool. So the foam mount was also already on here when I got the bike. It has a built-in charger and everything. I'm not going to be able to post a link to that just because I don't know which one this is, but you can find them on Amazon. They're not hard to find. And then of course with switching to 12-inch bars, I had to get an extended clutch cable and extended brake lines. And for the brake lines, there was a problem with them just because this is a Lowrider S, so it was a special model bike. So finding extended brake lines for this specific bike is kind of hard. So I just bought extended brake lines for a 2016 Fat Bob, because the 2016 Fat Bob also has dual disc front brakes, and as you can see this bike has ABS, so all these extra lines that come out run back here to the ABS module on this bike. So the Fat Bob has ABS, has dual disc front brakes. It was a way more produced bike than this. This bike I think was kept to 10,000 units. So I got they're 12-inch T-bars, so I got factory Fat Bob cable plus 6 inches. So they're 6-inch extended Fat Bob cables. So they fit perfect. For the clutch cable, I got a factory 2016 Street Bob clutch cable, because my buddy has a 2016 Street Bob, and he put 14-inch T-bars on his, and we was able to keep the factory clutch cable on his bike and the factory brake lines. So I knew they would fit. I think that was like 20 bucks or something from Harley Davidson. It was super cheap. And then of course I just put them in this little wire sheathing thing. I don't even know what you want to call it. But I'm also running that same sheathing on the Charger, and it's you know, right there on that wires. It's on those wires coming from the ignition module going over to the distributor. They just look better than the regular plastic black cables, and I wasn't spending, you know, $100 to buy braided cables just because I didn't want to. So going down from that, like I said, we got the Lepera seat. I think it's like a, I don't even know what the name brand is or what the model of it is. I want to say like a Daytona. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Just go to Lepera. You know, you'll be able to find this model. This factory air filter, you know, this was I think the only Dyna that came with a cone air filter. So on like a Street Bob or a regular lowrider, that would be an upgrade, but on the lowrider S, that was just factory. And then we got the stainless steel exhaust, and if you go back and watch my previous videos, I made this stainless steel exhaust myself. It's all 1 3/4 inch 304 stainless steel. I didn't do a step design, so some people will be running like step designs on their bike, so it'll go from a 1 3/4 inch main tube, and then it'll step up to like a 1 7/8, or you know, some people with bigger engines will even step up all the way to a 2-inch pipe. I did build one that stepped, and I had it run so the front pipe ran, you know, right below the air filter, and then they went into a merge collector just like this, and then it came down at a 45-degree angle, and it went from 1 3/4 all the way up to 2-inch. And then I had like a little shorty stainless steel muffler on there. I think the muffler was from Stainless Works, something like that. And yeah, it was just obnoxiously loud. So I went back and put this one back on. The only thing that's changed on this exhaust since the videos where I made it is the bracket. So the first bracket was just a piece of flat stock welded to the back of the muffler, and then it was hard mounted to the same bolt. And everybody that has welded stainless knows that stainless gets real brittle whenever you weld it, and it, you know, they're real subject to cracking once they get brittle. And especially with this one, you know, it was, you know, welded to the muffler and then hard mounted to the bike. There was no rubber insulation between the mount and the bike, or between the bracket and the bike. So, you know, it was catching all the vibration from the engine, and twin cams and Dynas specifically vibrate a crap ton. So it ended up cracking the bracket. So then I went and I bought this this little exhaust bracket from, I think, the same company, Stainless Works or Stainless Brothers. And then of course I just bent it, you know, 90 degrees, and then, you know, it's rubber insulated or rubber isolated, whatever you want to call it. So that's the only difference. But, you know, that's been on there now for a few thousand miles. It's working perfect, and it looks good. And then of course I got this little timing cover. I just thought it was cool, and you know, it got rid of the one, I think it did say like twin cam or something there from the factory. It was just didn't look that good. And then as you can see, I also have Flow Motorsports pegs. So Flow Motorsport peg on that side, and then Flow Motorsport peg and toe shifter on this side. And I wanted to do the Flow Motorsport shifter arm and brake arm, but the Lowrider S from the factory has further, they call them further forward mid controls, because as you can see, this peg is not straight in line with the bracket. So on like a Street Bob with mid controls, this peg is straight in line with the bracket. This shifter arm is naturally going to be shorter, so that way it's you know, going to be a natural reach for your foot. Whereas on this one, they had to extend the shifter arm. And Flow Motorsports don't make, or at least at the time, I don't know about right now, I haven't looked in months, but they don't make a shifter arm for further forward mid controls. They only make them for stock, you know, regular mid controls. And regular mid controls, I think from center to center is 6 inches, where I think this one's like 8 1/4 or 8 inches flat. So it's a little bit different, right? And same way with the brake arm, you know, it's just extended a little bit. And then for the main thing that's different on this bike that I did, as you can see, it has an open belt primary. So this is a Ultima 2-inch open belt primary, and The only thing I had to do to it was they're not made for mid controls, they're made for forward controls. So usually forward controls bolt up on this little block right up here, and you wouldn't have to worry about all this. So I had to make this bracket to hold the shaft for the shifter arm, because usually this shaft that comes through is supported by the primary, the stock primary casing, and it has like bushings and like rubber bushings and everything. So I had to make this little aluminum piece, and it looks kind of janky just because I didn't drill and tap far enough into the casing on the this primary casing here. I didn't drill and tap far enough into it. So of course, you know, I should have got shorter bolts and just did it that way, but these were the only bolts I had. And you know, it was crunch time late one night, so stack up some washers, and haven't had to take it off since, so I hadn't changed it. But you know, and of course I also put in a little brass bushing in here just because there was like a lot of slop in it, because the outside diameter of this shaft is way too small for the inside diameter of this pipe. So I bought a little brass bushing that has the same inside diameter as the outside diameter of this shaft. So the outside diameter of this shaft is a 1/2 inch, inside diameter shaft, or inside diameter of this bushing is a 1/2 inch. It was kind of like a press fit, and then the outside diameter of this bushing was too big to be slid into this aluminum tube. So I just took the bushing to the belt sander and just sanded down the outside to where it would just have to be tapped into the tube, and that worked perfect. It's you know, you see it barely moves around. It's probably just like a regular bike. But yeah, so got that done, and everything's been working perfect pretty much. The common complaint about open belt drives is that they will catch your pant leg, and you know, people with broken ankles. I don't know, I put that in quotation marks just because my pant legs are all torn up on the inside right there, just from sliding them over boots. They're naturally, you know, they get like a little stretch right there, and then they start ripping. And mine have never caught. Not to say that, you know, it could catch the next time I ride, but yeah, that's the biggest complaint. And then another big complaint is that the belts catch rocks. So any rocks that get thrown up by the front tire could get caught in the belt and then go around, and then of course it's going to get caught in between the pulley and the belt, and it's going to push the rock up through the belt, and it could rip your belt. But you know, I've read forums online about open belt primaries, and it seems like everybody that's ever caught a rock, it will push the rock up through the belt, and there will be like a tiny little hole in the belt, but then they just keep running that same belt. Like, these belts are strong enough that a tiny little hole in it from a rock isn't going to matter. You see what I'm saying? Like, so the shop that I actually ordered this open belt primary through, the owner of the shop has a FXR with a 124 S&S, and he has a, you know, a Ultima 2-inch open belt primary behind a 124 S&S motor, which makes, you know, way more power than this 110 ever will. And he's still running, you know, a 2-inch belt and the stock clutches that came with this kit. So I'm not worried about it at all. And then I guess the only downsides for me personally with the open belt primary is drivability, I guess. So the drivability at lower RPMs, low speed, and taking off is definitely hurt with the open belt primary, just because on a factory 2017 Dyna, and I'm assuming, you know, most Dynas, I don't know about like the early 2000s or 90s or anything, or even like FXRs or any of that. I just know, you know, for the later model Dynas, they had on the engine sprocket, they call it a torque dampening system. So it pretty much like took up slack. So whenever you like first start letting out on a clutch and taking off, it will allow that torque dampening system to kind of rotate a little bit and take up slack, so that way there's not such a hard, you know, nothing to something right there. And of course with this, that's not a thing. It's a direct link to the transmission with the belt. So there's no torque dampening. So it can be rough taking off until you just get used to it. Once, like now, I can take off just like any other bike. But you know, if I let my buddy ride it, who has a street bob, you know, he's rode it very few. I think he's rode it like once or twice with this open belt primary. It's definitely going to be like a little jerky taking off. And also, if you're idling around, say in like first gear, just idling through a parking lot, it's going to be like a little like jerking back and forth, just because there's no torque dampening system to take up that jerking motion. So that's the only downsides to it. Another downside, I guess, would be that it's not a common thing, so people don't know what they sound like. So open belt primaries are noisy. They're real noisy. They're real loud. They rattle. They clank. Everything. And the rattling is caused just by the clutches in there. Whenever you're sitting in neutral, or whenever you're in got the clutch pulled in, the clutch lever pulled in, the clutches have no tension on them, so they're just kind of like sitting in there rattling around a little bit. And then I guess people could probably think that there's something wrong with the bike, but I mean, I don't really care what people think. I know there's nothing wrong with the bike, and you know, anybody that's, you know, into this kind of stuff knows that there's nothing wrong with the bike. And yeah, I think that's the only downside. The only downside for me, it is loud. It has a real distinct whine to it. So the only whine that would be similar would be like a muscle car that has like a roots blower, so a big belt-driven blower with a wide, like 3-inch cog belt. Just because that's where the whine comes from, is that cog belt spinning around. So pretty much a cog belt is it's a regular belt, but instead of these grooves running side to side, in a regular belt like a serpentine belt, they'll run lengthwise, whereas in a cog belt they run side to side, and it'll cause that distinct whine, just like gears. So a bunch of like old transmissions and like the real old like 30s and 40s trucks had straight cut gears, and there's like a distinct whine to straight cut gears just because the meshing of the gear up against the next gear, same way with this, the meshing of the belt up against the pulley just causes a distinct whine. I like it. You can't even hear it going down the road much if you're wearing a full face helmet, but if you're wearing a half helmet like what's sitting over here on the dryer, then you can hear it. But I like it, so it's not a problem to me. Trying to think what else. I want to say that's pretty much all. I'm not going to start the bike up right now, but I will clip in some videos of me starting the bike up whenever I first put it on. I'm not going to do it now just because it's in the, you know, it's in the garage and it's all wet outside. So, but I like it. I love the way it sounds. I think it's cool. I did it just because you don't really see open belt primaries that often, besides on like choppers or bobbers and maybe like the occasional softail. But you definitely don't see them on Dynas often. And whenever you do see them on a Dyna, I have never seen one. Well, actually, I saw one on Instagram one time on a club style Dyna. And I want to say he had a little bit different kit, but it was still open belt primary. So there's one other one running around that I know of that I've seen on Instagram. But other than that, I've never seen an open belt primary on a club style Dyna. Meaning like T-bars, quarter fairing, you know, 2-up seat, like this style Dyna. It's just nobody does it. So I just wanted to do something different. I get compliments on, you know, the open belt primary and the custom exhaust I made myself all the time, which to me is you know, that's better than, it's better than buying exhaust. I spent, you know, 1/3 of the price for, you know, regular stainless steel exhaust by building this myself, and I get the pride of saying, you know, I built it myself. I get the pride of, you know, having a bike with an open belt primary that's, you know, rarely seen. To me, just doing stuff like that is I don't know, it's just cool. But that's gonna be all. This is my 2017 Lowrider S, and that's pretty much all the upgrades I've done. Like I said, I'm gonna try to link everything I can in the description, but